What if I told you that the first step to healing your body is to stop trying to fix it? Peace be with you. My name is Kai. For many years, I have sat with people, much like you, who come to me feeling tired, heavy, and at war with their own bodies. They bring me their swollen ankles, their aching joints, their foggy minds, and they say, "Kai, my body is broken. It has failed me," and I listen. I listen to their words, but more importantly, I listen to the story their body is telling. In the West, you have a very particular way of seeing the body. You see it as a machine, a beautiful and complex machine, but a machine nonetheless. When a part makes a noise, you try to silence it. When a gear grinds, you lubricate it. When a light flashes on the dashboard, a pain here, a swelling there, you find the right tool, the right pill to turn it off. But have you ever stopped to ask, what if your body isn't a machine at all? What if it's a garden? Imagine that for a moment. A garden doesn't break. It responds. If the leaves of a plant turn yellow, you don't just paint them green, do you? No, that would be absurd. You understand instinctively that the yellow leaf is not the problem. It is a message. It's a whisper from the plant telling you that something is out of balance. Perhaps the soil is lacking nutrients. Perhaps it is thirsty, or perhaps it is drowning in too much water. The yellow leaf is simply the messenger. To heal the plant, you must tend to the soil, to the roots, to the environment in which it lives. Your body is this garden. The swelling in your legs, the fatigue that settles deep in your bones, the stiffness in your morning joints. These are not failures. They are not enemies to be defeated. They are your body's whispers. They are the yellow leaves asking you to look deeper. I remember a woman who came to see me. Her name was Eleanor. She was in her late 60s, a retired librarian with a wonderfully sharp mind, but her body felt like a lead weight. Her legs and ankles were so swollen that her shoes no longer fit. She told me, with tears in her eyes, "I feel like I'm a prisoner in my own body. I've done everything they told me to. I take the water pill. I've cut down on salt. But it just gets worse. It feels like my body is betraying me." Have you ever felt that way? That sense of betrayal, as if the very vessel carrying you through life has turned against you. I asked Eleanor to sit with me, and instead of talking about her symptoms, we talked about her life. We talked about the foods she ate, yes, but also about how she felt. We talked about flow, not just in her circulation, but in her days. And slowly, she began to see her body differently, not as a traitor, but as a wise and faithful messenger that was trying desperately to get her attention. The swelling wasn't a malfunction. It was a sign that the rivers within her blood, her lymph had become slow and stagnant. The fatigue wasn't a lack of willpower. It was a sign that the very soil of her cells was depleted, unable to draw in the life-giving nutrients she was consuming. Her body wasn't broken. It was out of balance. It was crying out for the right conditions to thrive. This is the first and most profound key to unlocking your own strength, to change the conversation you have with your body, to move from a mindset of fixing a broken machine to one of nurturing a sacred garden. It requires you to become quiet enough to listen, to honor the whispers before they become screams. Eleanor's healing didn't begin with a new pill. It began with this simple, yet radical, shift in perspective. It began when she started to see the swelling not as a problem to be eliminated, but as a guidepost, pointing her toward the true source of the imbalance. And that is where our journey together truly begins. Not by attacking the symptoms, but by following their wisdom to the root cause, deep within the silent, powerful world of your cells. In our last moment together, we spoke of Eleanor, and how her healing began when she started to listen to her body's whispers instead of just trying to silence them. That whisper, the persistent swelling in her ankles, was a message. And so, together, we followed that message inward. We went deeper than skin, deeper than muscle, all the way down to the source of her body's great river, the single, individual cell. It is a place most of us never think about, yet it is where our health is truly born or lost. I want you to imagine something with me. Picture that every cell in your body, trillions of them, is a tiny, conscious home, a sacred temple. And at the doorway of each of these tiny homes stands a tireless, vigilant gatekeeper. This gatekeeper's only job is to maintain balance and peace within the home. It has a very specific, rhythmic duty. It must gently push one guest out to make room to welcome a dear friend in. The guest it pushes out is sodium. The friend it welcomes in is potassium. This is not a random act. It is the foundational dance of life. Out with the sodium, in with the potassium. This constant, gentle exchange, happening billions of times a second throughout your body, is what allows your cells to breathe, to feed, to create energy. In your science, you call this the sodium-potassium pump. But I want you to hold on to the image of the gatekeeper. It's a more truthful story of what is happening. This gatekeeper is the guardian of your life force. When it is working well, your cells are calm, hydrated just enough, and full of vibrant energy. The rivers of your body flow freely. But what happens when the gatekeeper gets tired? What happens when it becomes overworked, underpaid in the currency of nutrients, and can no longer perform its duty? It can no longer push the sodium out. So, the sodium begins to build up inside the little home. And here is a timeless law of nature. Wherever sodium gathers, water will follow. So, water begins to seep into the cell, not to hydrate it, but to flood it. The once come home becomes waterlogged, swollen and suffocated. The precious friend, potassium, is crowded out, unable to enter and deliver its gifts of energy and nourishment. The cell is, in essence, drowning. It is full of water, yet it is starving and exhausted now. Imagine this happening not in one home, but in millions, then billions of the little homes in the garden of your body. Imagine all the cells in your feet, your ankles, your legs, becoming waterlogged and swollen from within. What would that look like from the outside? It would look like Eleanor's legs. It would look like your own. That puffiness, that heavy, waterlogged feeling that you've been told is just fluid retention, is so much more than that. It is a sign of a crisis at the cellular level. It is the collective cry of trillions, of your body's gatekeepers, who have become too exhausted to hold the line. They are failing. When Eleanor understood this, her perspective on her own body changed forever. She stopped blaming her ankles. She stopped feeling angry at the fluid. Instead, she felt a wave of compassion. Her body wasn't betraying her. Its most fundamental guardians were simply crying out for help. This brings us to the most important question. Why? Why do these tireless gatekeepers, who have served you faithfully your entire life, suddenly begin to fail? Is it just, as many doctors might say, a symptom of getting older? The ancient texts and the wisdom of the body tell us no. It is not age, it is exhaustion, it is a deep starvation. The gatekeepers are not being given the essential energy and tools they need to do their job. Their environment, the very river they live in, has become hostile, so you see. The path to relief isn't found in a pill that simply forces more water out of a drowning system. That is like bailing water from a flooded house without fixing the leak. The true path is to nourish the gatekeepers, to restore their strength, to give them back the energy they need to perform their sacred dance. Before we can do that, we must first understand what is making them so tired in the first place. We must look at the river that flows between these cellular homes and ask, what has made it so thick, so sticky, that it suffocates the very life within it? That is the next step of our journey. We left off asking a simple, profound question. Why have the gatekeepers of our cells become so exhausted? The answer, my friends, is not found by looking deeper into the cell itself, but by looking at the world in which it lives. We must look to the river. The river of your blood is the source of all life for your body's garden. When it is healthy, it flows freely, like a clear mountain stream. It carries life-giving oxygen and nutrients to every single one of your trillions of cellular homes. It sings a song of health. But what happens if we start pouring something thick and sticky into that river? Imagine pouring molasses or honey into that clear, flowing stream. What would happen? The flow would slow down. The water would become thick, cloudy, and sluggish. The rocks on the riverbed would become coated in a sticky film. Life within the stream would struggle to breathe, to move. In our modern world, many of us are unknowingly pouring a kind of liquid honey into our own inner river every single day. And I don't just mean the spoonful of sugar you put in your tea. I'm speaking of a much more pervasive, hidden sweetness that has found its way into almost everything we eat. When there is too much sugar in the river of your blood for your body to use as immediate energy, a slow, silent, and damaging process begins. The excess sugar molecules start to attach themselves to things they shouldn't. They latch onto the vital proteins and fats that make up your body, your enzymes, your vessel walls, and even the gatekeepers of your cells. In your science, this process is called glycation. It is a complicated word for a very simple idea. Think of it as a slow internal caramelization. The sugar essentially cooks your proteins, making them stiff, brittle, and unable to do their jobs. The living, flexible tissues of your body begin to lose their vitality. They become sticky dot. Now, picture our tired gatekeeper from our last talk. It is already struggling, starving for energy. And now, the very river that is meant to bring it nourishment has become a thick, sticky sludge. How can the vital nutrients get through? How can the cell's waste be carried away when the river is already clogged? Worse still, this sticky glycation process coats the gatekeeper itself. Imagine our vigilant doorman, who once moved with a graceful, rhythmic dance, now covered head to toe in sticky caramel. He can barely move. He becomes stiff. His ability to push sodium out and welcome potassium in is severely compromised. This is the heart of the issue. This is why the swelling begins. The gatekeepers are not only starved, they are being immobilized by the very river that is supposed to sustain them. I know what some of you may be thinking. But Kai, I don't eat that much sugar. I gave up desserts years ago, and I hear you. But this inner stickiness doesn't just come from the candy bowl. In our world, it comes from the mountains of bread made from flour as fine as dust. It comes from the bowls of pasta and white rice. It even comes from the glasses of healthy fruit juice that have been stripped of their life-giving fiber. To the river of your body, these foods are often no different than spoonfuls of pure sugar. They overwhelm the system, and they create the sticky sludge of Glycation. The librarian I told you about was shocked when we discovered this. She ate very few sweets, but her diet was filled with toast for breakfast, sandwiches for lunch, and crackers for a snack. She thought she was eating healthily, but her inner river had become slow and sticky over the decades. Understanding this is not about blame, it is about empowerment. It's about seeing the truth of what is happening inside, so that we can begin to make different choices. So now, the picture becomes clearer, doesn't it? We have the exhausted gatekeepers, and we have the sticky, slow-moving river. This combination creates a perfect storm of stagnation in the body. And in nature, whenever something becomes stagnant, pond without an outlet, a fallen log, what happens? Things cease to flow. Pressure builds. Life begins to decay. That is the inevitable consequence of this stickiness, and that is what we must turn our attention to next. We have journeyed inward together and have arrived at a clear, if troubling, understanding. We see the cellular gatekeepers, too exhausted to guard their homes. And we see the river of life, the bloodstream, made slow and sticky with the residue of hidden sugars. So we must ask the next question. What happens when a living system becomes stagnant? Think of a pond in the forest. If a stream that feeds it becomes blocked, the pond doesn't just stay the same, it changes. The water becomes still and murky. It loses its life-giving oxygen. The fish and vibrant plants begin to die off, while algae and bacteria that thrive in decay begin to take over. Stagnation in nature is not a peaceful state. It is an active state of decline. The exact same thing happens within the sacred garden of your body. When the river of your blood becomes a sticky, slow-moving sludge, the consequences ripple outward, causing two great patterns of suffering that so many of you know intimately. First, the circulation becomes clogged. The stickiness from the glycation process begins to damage the delicate lining of your blood vessels, the banks of your inner river. Your body, in its infinite wisdom, senses this damage and sends repair crews to patch the injuries. But in this sticky, unhealthy environment, the patches are clumsy. They become hard, thick, and inflamed. Over years, these patches build upon one another, and the riverbanks themselves begin to grow inward. The once wide flowing river becomes a series of narrow, obstructed channels. Does this story sound familiar in your own body? Have you ever sat with a warm blanket over you, yet your feet remain stubbornly cold, as if they belong to someone else? Do you notice that the skin on your legs has become thin or discolored? Or that a small scratch that would have vanished in a few days when you were younger now lingers for weeks? This is the consequence of a river that can no longer reach the farthest outposts of its own kingdom. The life-giving blood, rich with oxygen and nutrients, simply cannot push its way through the clogged and narrow passages to nourish your skin and heal your tissues. But there is a second, deeper consequence of this stagnation. Running alongside these rivers and branching off from them are the body's messengers, your nerves. Think of them as a vast network of tiny, shimmering wires that carry the feeling of the world to your brain and carry instructions back out to your body. These delicate messengers need their own constant supply of energy and oxygen, which they receive from the tiniest of tributary streams that branch off the main river. These are the microvessels, so small you cannot see them. And when the main river becomes a sticky sludge, these tiny streams are the very first to get blocked. When this happens, the nerves begin to starve, and a starving messenger cannot be trusted. At first, it sends confused and chaotic signals. This is the tingling you feel for no reason, the pins and needles, the sudden, sharp pains, the feeling of burning or electricity when nothing is there. The messenger is crying out in distress. If the stagnation continues, the messenger, starved for too long, eventually falls silent. This silence is the numbness. It's the unsettling feeling of wearing a thick sock when you are completely barefoot. You can no longer properly feel the ground beneath you. This is why balance becomes so frighteningly precarious. How can you walk with confidence when you cannot trust the messages from your own feet? Eleanor told me her greatest fear was falling. Her doctor gave her condition a name, neuropathy, another label for another broken part. But through our talks, she came to see it not as a broken wire, but as a community of starving messengers, crying out because their life-giving streams had run dry. So, this is the landscape of chronic swelling and its related suffering. Waterlogged cells drowning from within. A sticky, slow-moving river, clogged channels that prevent healing, and starving nerves that send messages of pain or no messages at all. It is a bleak picture, I know. It can feel overwhelming, like a story without a way out. But I promise you, that is not the truth. Because just as nature shows us the pattern of decay, it also shows us the path to renewal. To bring a stagnant pond back to life, you must do one thing first. You must restore the flow of fresh, living water. To restore the garden of your body, you must do the same. You must give it the tools to clean the river and re-energize the gatekeepers. There is a master key to begin this process, a forgotten element that can unlock the energy your cells are starving for. And discovering that key is the next, most hopeful step of our journey. We have walked together through a difficult landscape. We've witnessed the tired gatekeepers, the sticky river, the clogged channels, and the starving nerves. It is a story of stagnation and suffering. But I promised you, at the end of that dark path, there was a light. I promised you there was a way to begin the great work of renewal. I promised you a master key. This key is not a complex, modern invention. It is not a powerful drug with a long list of side effects. It is something humble, ancient, and absolutely essential to life. It is the spark that ignites the fire within your cells. In the language of your science, this master key is called thiamine, or vitamin B1. Please, do not let the simplicity of that name fool you. Its power is profound. I want you to imagine that each of your cells is a magnificent power plant. The food you eat, the carbohydrates, the sugars is the fuel, like great piles of wood delivered to the plant. You can have mountains of fuel, enough to power a city. But if you have no match, no spark to ignite it, that fuel is useless. It will just sit there, cold and inert. It cannot create warmth or light or energy. Thiamine is the match. It is the divine spark. It is the one nutrient that allows your cells to take the fuel you give them and turn it into pure, usable energy. Without this spark, the power plant of your cell goes dark. Now, let's go back to our tired gatekeepers, the guardians of your cells. What is the one thing they have been crying out for? Energy, their constant rhythmic dance of pushing sodium out and welcoming potassium in is enormously demanding. They have been running on empty. When you reintroduce this master key, this spark of thiamine, you are not just giving them a tool. You are giving them the very power they need to wake up. You are turning the lights back on in the power plant. You are giving them the strength to once again do their job, to push out the excess water, and to restore the sacred balance of their home. But its work does not end there. Remember the sticky river, the honey-like sludge created by unprocessed sugar that clogs the system and caramelizes your proteins. Thiamine is the master conductor of sugar metabolism. When it is present in abundance, the sugar you consume is burned cleanly and efficiently for energy. When it is absent, that sugar lingers, it stagnates, it ferments, and it creates the very stickiness that causes so much damage. So you see, the master key not only gives energy to the gatekeepers, it begins to clean the river at its very source by ensuring the fuel is burned properly. And our starving messengers, the nerves, they are the most energy-hungry tissues in your entire body. The protective coating around them, which ensures their messages are clear and true, requires a colossal amount of energy to maintain. A lack of thiamine is a primary reason why these nerves begin to falter, sending signals of pain and numbness. Restoring the spark of thiamine is like sending a crew of master electricians to restore power to the entire communication grid of your body. You may be wondering, if this nutrient is so fundamental, why would I be lacking it? It is a tragic irony of our modern world. The very foods that place the greatest burden on our system, the processed carbohydrates, the white flours, the white rice, the sugary snacks, have been stripped of their natural thiamine. We are given mountains of fuel, and at the same time, the spark needed to burn it has been taken away. So this is the beginning of hope. The master key, the spark to reignite your trillions of cellular power plants. But a key, even a master key, does not work in isolation. A key needs a hand to turn it. A spark needs a well-laid fire to catch hold and grow into a steady, healing flame. Thiamine is the catalyst, but for its power to be fully expressed, it needs the help of two steadfast and loyal pillars. These are the essential minerals that create the foundation upon which this new energy can be built. And learning to rebuild that foundation is the next vital step of our journey. So, we have found our master key. We have the divine spark of thiamine to reignite the power plants within our cells. But as any wise builder knows, you cannot construct a strong house on barren ground. A spark can quickly die out if it has nothing to catch hold of. For this new fire of cellular energy to become a steady, healing flame, it needs a firm foundation. It needs two great, supporting pillars to stand upon. These pillars are not rare or exotic. They are two humble minerals, two old friends of the body that have been largely forgotten in our modern rush. They are potassium and magnesium. Let's speak first of potassium. This is the first great pillar. Do you remember our story of the cellular gatekeeper? His sacred duty was to push sodium out and to welcome a treasured friend in that treasured friend. The very reason the gatekeeper performs its tireless dance is potassium. The entire goal of that cellular mechanism is to bring this beautiful mineral into the home of the cell. The state of being swollen, of feeling heavy and waterlogged, is at its very heart a state of being deficient in potassium inside your cells. They are flooded with sodium and water precisely because they are starving for potassium. No matter how much energy the master key of thiamine provides, if there is not enough potassium available in the river of your blood, the gatekeeper has no friend to welcome in. The home remains flooded. To heal, you cannot simply force the water out. You must invite the rightful resident back into the home. As potassium enters the cell, it pushes the sodium and the excess water out. It is the true hydrator of the body. It allows your cells to hold water in a healthy, energetic way, restoring the electrical potential that powers your nerves and your muscles. This is the first pillar, the destination of our healing journey, the mineral of inner balance. But for the gatekeeper to use its newfound energy effectively, it needs a manager. For the master key to work without causing chaos, it needs a calm, steady hand to guide it. This is our second pillar, the great balancer, magnesium. If thiamine is the spark that starts the cellular engine, magnesium is the master mechanic who ensures the engine runs smoothly. It is the oil in the machine, preventing it from overheating. It is the mineral of peace. It is involved in over 300 processes in your body, and its most important role here is to act as thiamine's partner. It helps channel the new energy created by the spark, ensuring it is used with calm efficiency. Remember our starving frayed nerves we spoke of. Magnesium soothes them. Remember the clogged, constricted blood vessels. Magnesium helps them relax and open up. It is the great calming force that allows the body to handle this new influx of energy with grace. Without magnesium, the spark of thiamine can sometimes feel too intense, too jarring. With magnesium, the energy is steady, peaceful, and productive. Do you see the beautiful dance that begins to emerge? It is a sacred trinity of healing. Thiamine, the master key, provides the raw spark of energy. Magnesium, the supporting pillar, channels that energy with calm, wisdom, and grace. And potassium, the second pillar, is the ultimate golder, treasured friend who uses that well-managed energy to restore the sacred balance of the cell, pushing out the stagnant water and welcoming. In true vitality, one without the others is a story left incomplete. Taking one is like trying to build a roof with no walls. But together, they create the foundation for profound and lasting renewal. And nature, in its wisdom, packages them together. We find them not in a laboratory, but in the earth, in the deep, verdant leaves of spinach and kale, in avocados, in nuts and in seeds. We now have the spark. We have the strong pillars to build our house upon. We have the foundation for true cellular energy, but even a well-built home, with its lights on and its residents happy, needs one more thing to be truly alive. It needs water, but perhaps not the kind of water you've been told to drink. There is a forgotten, living water that your cells are truly thirsty for. And understanding this living water is our next essential step. For as long as any of us can remember, we have been given one piece of advice more than any other. If you feel unwell, drink more water. If your body is swollen, drink water to flush it out. If you are tired, drink water to rehydrate. It is the first and last answer for everything, but I want to ask you a question that might seem strange. Have you ever followed that advice diligently, drinking glass after glass of water all day, only to find that by the evening, your ankles are even more swollen, that you feel just as thirsty as when you started? This is the great paradox of hydration. It is possible to be drowning in water on the outside, yet be profoundly dehydrated on the inside, at the cellular level. This happens when we misunderstand what water our bodies are truly asking for. We have been taught to think that all water is the same, but it is not. There is the water you get from a tap or a bottle. I call this empty water. And then there is the water that nature creates. I call this living water. Empty water is just that, empty. It is simply HO when your cells are already struggling. When the gatekeepers are weak and your electrolyte balance is off, flooding your system with empty water can sometimes do more harm than good. It can flush out the few precious minerals you have left, like potassium and magnesium, putting even more stress on the system. It's like pouring a torrent of rain onto a waterlogged field doesn't soak in. It just adds to the flood on. The surface, living water, is different. Living water is the water that is found inside living things. It is the water you find in a cucumber, a piece of melon, a stalk of celery, or a vibrant leaf of lettuce. This water has been filtered, structured, and mineralized by the plant itself. It's not just H2O. It's H2O that is pre-packed with the very electrolytes, like potassium and magnesium, that your cells need to draw the water inside. Think of it this way. The water inside your cells is not like the water in this glass. It is a structured, gel-like water. It is alive. And the easiest way for your body to create this inner, living water is to consume water that is already structured and alive. When you eat a cucumber, you are not just eating a vegetable. You are eating perfect, cellularly available water. It quenches a thirst that empty water can never touch. It is the water your weak and tired gatekeepers recognize. They can easily welcome it into the cellular home because it arrives with the proper credentials, the minerals and electrolytes that act as its passport. Eleanor, the woman I spoke of, was drinking nearly a gallon of water a day. She carried a bottle with her everywhere, yet she was constantly thirsty, and her swelling was relentless. When we began to shift her focus from drinking empty water to eating living water, everything began to change. We added cucumber and celery to her meals. She ate a small bowl of watermelon in the afternoon. Within a few weeks, she told me something remarkable. She said, "Kai, for the first time in years, I don't feel thirsty anymore." The deep, cellular thirst was finally being quenched. And because her cells were finally getting the hydration they needed on the inside, they were able to release the stagnant water they were holding onto on the outside. Her swelling began, for the first time, to genuinely recede. This is a profound shift in thinking. We must stop trying to hyperhydrate with empty water, and instead focus on intelligently hydrating with living, structured, food-based water. This is nature's way. So now our picture of healing is becoming more complete. We have the spark of thiamine to create energy. We have the foundational pillars of potassium and magnesium. And now we have the living water to act as the perfect vehicle to carry this healing trinity into the very heart of our cells. The foundation is laid. The cellular home is now ready to be revitalized. But even a perfect home can become stale and stagnant if the air within it never moves. The final piece of our physical puzzle is to create that movement, to ensure the river of life truly begins to flow again. We must now speak of the gentle, healing power of motion. Asterisk, asterisk, we have come so far on this journey together. We have tended to the very soil of our being. We have provided the spark of thiamine to awaken the cellular power plants. We have rebuilt the foundation with the pillars of potassium and magnesium. We have offered ourselves the deep, satisfying hydration of living water. The garden has been given everything it needs to thrive. But imagine a beautiful, well-tended garden where the air is perfectly still. Day after day, no breeze ever stirs. The air would become heavy, stale, and stagnant. For life to be vibrant, there must be flow. There must be movement. Now, when I say the word movement, I know what many of you might feel, a sense of dread. You might picture a gymnasium, or running, or some other strenuous activity that feels utterly impossible right now. Your body is heavy, your joints ache, and the fatigue is a constant companion. The very idea of exercise can feel like a punishment, not a path to healing. So, I want you to take that word, exercise, and gently set it aside. We are not here to talk about punishment. We are here to talk about flow. We are here to talk about gentle, mindful movement. Your body has a second heart. Did you know that? Your main heart is a magnificent pump, sending fresh, oxygenated blood out to the farthest reaches of your body. But the journey back is much harder, especially from your lower legs. The return trip works against gravity, and the vessels that carry this used blood and lymph fluid do not have a strong pump of their own. That is where you come in. The muscles in your legs, especially your calves, are designed to be your body's second heart. When you gently contract and relax them, they squeeze the vessels and pump the old, stagnant fluid back up toward your chest where it can be cleaned and refreshed. This is the key to resolving the swelling. The nutrients and water we've discussed help the cells on the inside, but we must help the stagnant fluid in the spaces between the cells to move along. Your movement is the pump dot. So, what does this gentle movement look like? It does not look like running a marathon. It looks like a conversation with your body. It might look like this. While you are sitting, reading a book, or watching the world go by, you simply point your toes away from you and then flex them back toward you. Do this 10 times. You have just activated your second heart. You have just told the river it is time to flow. It might look like gently drawing circles with your ankles, first one way, then the other. It might look like standing up and sitting down a few times without using your hands. Or it might look like a slow, mindful walk to the end of your driveway, not to get somewhere, but simply to feel the earth beneath your feet and the gentle rhythm of your own body in motion. Eleanor believed her days of physical activity were long gone. The thought was too exhausting. So, we started where she was. In her favorite chair, she began with those simple ankle flexes and circles, just for a few minutes each day. It was not a chore. It was an act of kindness to her body as the nutrients began to restore her energy. Those few minutes became a slow walk around her garden. She wasn't exercising. She was visiting her flowers. She was feeling the sun on her skin. She was re-establishing a loving connection with her body, and with every step, she was gently pumping that old, stagnant fluid out of her legs. This is the power of mindful movement. The goal is not to burn calories, it is to create flow. The intention is not to punish your body, it is to awaken it. Start small, start where you are. Listen to your body. It will tell you what it needs. We have now tended to the entirety of the physical garden. The spark, the pillars, the water, and the flow. We have given the body all the physical tools it needs to heal. But you and I are more than just a collection of cells and systems. For the healing to be deep and lasting, we must address the gardener. We must turn to the one final key, the one that unlocks the path to true inner harmony. And so, we arrive at the end of our path, and at the true beginning of your own. We have gathered all the keys to restore the physical body. We have the spark of Thiamine to light the fire, the pillars of potassium and magnesium to build the foundation, the living water to hydrate the cells, and the gentle movement to create flow. We have learned how to tend to the garden of the body. But there is one final, all-important question we must ask. Who is the gardener? You are your mind. Your spirit, your consciousness, this is the gardener. And the state of the gardener determines the health of the garden. You can have the finest seeds, the richest soil, and the most perfect tools. But if the gardener is filled with anxiety, frustration, and anger, the garden will struggle to thrive. For decades, you may have been at war with your body. You have looked at your legs with frustration. You have felt betrayed by your own reflection. You have seen your body not as a sacred home, but as a broken machine that is failing you. This state of inner conflict, this war against the self, creates its own kind of poison. Your science knows this now. It knows that feelings of stress, fear, and anger flood the body with hormones like cortisol. This stress hormone raises your blood sugar, contributing to the sticky river. It causes your body to waste precious minerals like magnesium, weakening the pillars of your foundation. It creates tension and constriction, working directly against the flow we are trying to create. The final key, the one that locks all the others into place, is to make peace. It is to end the war. It is to shift from a state of frustration with your body to a state of partnership with your body. This is the path to harmony. Eleanor's story found its true completion here. The nutrients and the movement healed her physical form, but the joy, the light in her eyes, returned only when she changed her relationship with herself. She had spent years seeing her swollen legs as enemies. We worked together to change that perception. I asked her to try a simple practice. Every morning, before even getting out of bed, she would place her hands on her legs, and instead of feeling for the swelling with dread, she would simply send a feeling of gratitude. She would say, silently or out loud, "Thank you. Thank you for carrying me through this life. Thank you for doing your best. I am listening now. We are in this together." It felt strange at first, but slowly it shifted everything. The anger dissolved into compassion. The frustration melted into patience. By changing the heart of the gardener, the garden began to blossom in a way that no nutrient alone could have achieved. The physical healing was profound, but the spiritual healing was total. This is the truly holistic solution. It is the understanding that your thoughts, your feelings, and your beliefs are not separate from your physical health. They are the very soil in which it grows. You cannot hate your body into healing. You can only love it into wholeness. So, as we part today, I leave you with this invitation. Embrace all the physical wisdom we have shared, but do not forget to tend to the gardener. Start your day with a moment of gratitude for the body you have right now. When you feel a negative thought about your body arise, simply notice it and gently replace it with a thought of compassion. Place a hand on your heart and breathe. Remind yourself that you are on a journey and you are doing the best you can. The path to youthful strength is not a battle to be won against aging. It is a return to the natural state of harmony that is your birthright. It is a garden to be tended with the right nutrients, the right water, the right movement, and above all, with a loving and compassionate hand. Thank you for walking this path with me. May you be well, may you be at peace, and may you find harmony within and without.